Like bringing him off the bench doesn't make you better. It just makes you more disjointed.
I do have a thought that might piss some people off.
What's that?
Uh-oh.
They talked about sacrifice. James did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, the big three.
Mm-hmm.
Made it sound like other guys sacrifice, but the big three in particular need to sacrifice. You might have to ask Bradley Beal if you truly feel that you need a point guard out there, you're going to have to ask Bradley Beal to be your sixth man. I mean, because you can't roll out a point guard, Devin Booker, Grayson Allen, Bradley Beal, and then what? Kevin Durant's your starting center? Like that.
Well, no,
that
Grayson would
work.
be coming off the bench if you had a
If you
point
did
guard.
that.
Yeah. To your point, let me ask you this question, right?
Uh-oh.
Do you think Devin Booker played his best basketball this year?
No.
Or do you think he played his best basketball in the years where he had more of a traditional point
Absolutely.
guard?
No, because there were years where when he dropped 70, he didn't have a point.
No.
I'm not talking about
I'm
a
talking
point
about
guard who's no longer necessarily, one of them's also not in the league. I'm talking about a serviceable point guard, Ricky Rubio and forward.
Ricky Rubio
Okay.
forward.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
Ricky Rubio level
Chris
point
Paul.
guard and
Yes.
forward.
Overall, did he
Yes.
play better? Yes.
Yes.
I think we also forget that he was tied for fifth best in points per game this season and was top 10 in assists this year.
I'm not
as
saying
well,
statistically
so.
And
he
I wouldn't
didn't, but
say-
from your eye test, do you think Devin Booker played better
No,
this
he
year
wasn't
than
comfortable this year at times.
I wouldn't say I don't want to say better or worse. I would say utilized is the word I use. I think Devin Booker was better utilized in the years where he had a Ricky Rubio and a Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were spots this year where he wasn't as comfortable in the role that he was asked to be in without the point guard. And so I don't want to say better or worse because I like you said there's not too many people in the league that are top 10 in both in two major categories, and he was damn near top 5 scorer and a top 10 assist guy.
Mm-hmm.
So those numbers tell me that he's playing some pretty damn good basketball. But I think there were times where a point guard could have made life easier on him in some spots.
Well, I don't understand why, and you guys can explain to me because you're some of them, why people scoff at the idea of Bradley Beal.
It's the
six
money.
man, but I don't care. Manu Ginobili was the third best guy on the Spurs in those years. He was a sixth man. I mean, I think sacrifice has to happen at some point, like they said. And if that's what makes this team run the best, if you truly, because there's so many people screaming point guard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if in that room they decide that was the answer, I think it works better with Grayson Allen just out there spot up shooting with a starting lineup. Bradley Beal coming in and doing Bradley Beal things off the bench, being a super sixth man. And who the hell cares how much money he makes? He's making that regardless. Don't you want to put him in the best position to go in there and be that guy that we've seen? And I think that may answer your scoring problems off the bench too. And if you build your bench unit around Bradley Beal's strengths, then maybe it becomes more cohesive. That doesn't mean Bradley Beal can't finish a game. But if people are that hell-bent on a point guard, the reality is one of those starters has to go to the bench. And I would not be against it being Bradley Beal.
It's not going to be Beal. There's no fucking way. I know what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Like the money shouldn't matter, but it does when it's $50 million, and it matters to him. Like I don't think Bradley Beal is going to be like, yeah, you brought me here to be a big three, and now you're going to bring me off the bench while Grayson Allen and his 12, 13 points a game are starting. There's no way you're going to have that conversation.
Well, then that might fix the problem because, Brad, you don't want to be here? Find the place you want to get traded to.
Listen, you guys do not want to go down that roll of dysfunctionality. You do not want to tell a star who's making that much money, okay, if you don't like it, then we'll trade you somewhere, and have to deal with him and his no trade clause and try to find a suitor for that contract. And all the while he's probably sitting out and you are missing out on one of your big three. You don't want to go down that road.
I guess the question would be then, how badly do you want to win?
All right.
Gerald, dysfunction.
But Bradley Beal coming off the bench doesn't help you win. That's the thing. We're pretending like Bradley Beal in a six-man role makes the Suns better. It doesn't. Like bringing him off the bench doesn't make you better. It just makes you more disjointed. You can stagger your lineups if you want Bradley Beal with bench-heavy units. you're not benching a $50 million guy.
But that's my point is everybody's screaming point guard. There's going to be a sacrifice. I'm not
right.
No. But here's my thing. I know everybody's screaming point guard, but it doesn't have to be to the extreme. Like I feel like people are saying, I either need a point guard or I don't need a point guard. And I think there's a middle ground.
You need a backup.
So for so you know when I think point guard, here's what I'm thinking. The minutes that KD and Beal are on the bench and Book's out there with Eric Gordon, I'd love a point guard. I love a point guard so Book can go back to the 2 and that point guard can set Book up like Chris and you know when he was out there with campaign, stuff like that. So I'm looking at the margins. I'm saying I don't have a problem when Brad goes to the bench, bringing in a point guard and having Book and KD run off pin downs and stuff. In small doses. That's it. Small doses. That's all I want. That's all I want. A point guard for 8 to 10 minutes a game, maybe 12 minutes, to kind of fill the gaps when the big 3 isn't on the court together. I will emphatically say we do not need a fucking point guard if all 3 of those guys are on the court at the same time. But as soon as they start to stagger and they start to separate, I love a bridge point guard.